Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Development Review Board for the Town of Essex. Today's date is Thursday, December 4th. I'm going to call the meeting to order. We'll start off with simple introductions, if we could. We'll start with board members, since staff is in the middle of doing something. So I want to start off with this side.
Dustin Brusso, board member.
Stephanie Bixby, board member.
Ian Carroll, board member.
Nick Martin, board member.
Hubie Norton, board member.
Sharon Zukowski, board member.
And Trevor, if you don't mind piping in.
Sure. Trevor Williams, board member.
Thank you, joining us remotely. And for staff we have with us this evening.
Kent Johnson, town planner.
Great, thank you. I want a quick reminder for those of you that are in the audience, if you would make sure that your cell phones are on mute. At any point in time, if you have a question, you want to raise a hand, that would be great. And those of you that are online, everyone is muted automatically coming in. And if you have a point in which you would like to speak, please make sure you raise your emoji hand and we'll allow for that. This is to help combat against some recent issues that some of the town meetings have been having with Zoom bombing, if you will. So this is just a way for us to help control that. First thing up, well, number 2 on our agenda for this evening are any additions or changes. Staff, do we have any changes? None? I have one that I would like to make. I'd like to move the approval of the meeting minutes from 5 to 4 and above, public to be heard, so we can get through the meeting minutes right away. Anyone else have anything else or any questions about that? I will make a motion to approve the amended agenda, moving the meeting minutes to item number 4 and public to be heard to item number 5.
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Which means then we will go right to now the approval of the meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
I move to approve the meeting minutes.
Thank you, Sharon. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Nick. Motion by Sharon. Any further discussion regarding the meeting minutes? Hubie?
No.
Okay. All right. Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the meeting minutes from November 6th, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Excellent. Now we move on to the public to be heard. This is a category that perhaps in the future will not be with us in the Development Review Board. Going down in the future, we'll have an opportunity to talk about that. But at the moment, the agenda item is public to be heard. This is a time when those members in the public would like to speak about something that is not on this evening's agenda. I will ask those in the room and those that are online to raise your hands if you would, and swear the oath if you have any intention on speaking about an item this evening. And that includes for items that will be on the agenda. But we'll take the oath at this time. So seeing a couple hands here in the room, any hands online? I see one. Do you affirm that the evidence you're going to give on the case under consideration this evening will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury? I do. You do. Great. Thank you, Cheryl. We've got you. Okay. So at this time, we'll take an item that anybody in the room has or anybody online that has some questions or comments for something that is not on this evening's agenda. Yes. Come on up.
Just a real quick question.
Yep.
About the new process. You just sit. Lorraine,
To be clear, there is no new process as of yet. There will be some discussion about it in the future.
can you hear me?
I can.
Lorraine Zaloom, 74 Center Road. Just a question because I noticed consent agenda went away.
Correct.
Business item was added. I'm just wondering if business.
Business items have always been part of our agenda, but
But just a question about business item. If something is on there in terms of interested party, would there be some kind of vetting process to make sure that
yeah, business items are not a an item that would be a warned item. It's business items, as in what kind of business do we need to conduct?
So that's it. So there wouldn't be anything that would impact someone
Correct.
being
Anything that
an
has to be
interested
warned
party.
would be
All
warned.
right, cool. Just want to check that.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thanks. Anyone else online? Seeing none and no one else here in the room, we will move on to the first business item this evening, which is we do have a request from Sterling Construction for an extension on their sketch approval for subdivision on 53 Center Road. Staff, do you want to address this?
Sure. So they had their sketch approved. They had their sketch approved by the Planning Commission last December on the 11th, and they're coming up to their 1-year anniversary. The approval expires after a year. They do expect to have their preliminary application in any time, hopefully before that date. But in case it comes after the date, then this is a little bit of security that they won't have to start back over at sketch again.
Right.
So they've been trying to work over the past year to get their application together as quickly as they can, but they've had some delays and setbacks because of some complexity with the project. So that's why they are asking for the extension.
Okay. Board members, questions for staff about the
Just
application?
Mr. Chairman, just quick, the business item says subdivision at 53 Center Road. Our letter says 53A, which is correct.
I do not know which is the correct address. I would ask the applicant for that.
And we don't have an applicant here this evening, correct?
Yeah.
Oh, we do. Yes. Excellent. Do you mind coming up and
Yeah.
identify yourself for the record if you would? And
Good evening. I'm Bart Frisbee from Sterling Homes.
Yep.
The applicant. So I think technically our address is 53A. As you probably know, the access to this property is actually off Saybrook Road, but it used to front on Center Road.
yep. Okay. So the answer to the question would be technically it's 53A Center Road,
Yeah.
which the application is correct.
Yeah, okay, I just want, because the warning is not exactly correct, so I don't see that's a problem necessarily, but we pointed out that we should make a note that the correct address is 53A.
Great. Thank you. Sharon, do you have anything?
I do have a question. So this isn't considered a public hearing, it's a business item, but we're going to discuss together whether there's cause to extend it and make a decision on it. Isn't that sort of a public hearing sort of thing? Sort of like
My understanding about this, and I did check into this, but my understanding, there's no new information about the application itself. It's strictly extending the deadline only. There's no changes, no adjustments, nothing that's coming before us.
so
That's
nothing
different
is,
in any of the other information.
so nothing is going to change about like the
Correct.
plan.
It's
the
just an extension
second
of the
access is gonna be in
deadline.
the
That is
second
correct.
place.
That has nothing to do with this at all. This is only an extension of the application deadline because they're coming up on the year anniversary. So when the application is heard, then they'll have the opportunity to present any differing information at that time. But that's not what this is about tonight.
But it seems like we got a little bit different information. Like there wasn't a second access in this. I don't have it.
Right.
Sketch plan, and now there is one, and it's a different spot. So it seemed, I don't know.
Yeah, what I read here is reasons as to why they're requesting an extension, because there's more due diligence, more rather than just saying, well, we're not ready yet. They're stating the reasons why it's been a year and they're moving past the deadline. There's nothing in here that we are approving that would say that this is okay with us. This is the reason why the deadline of 12 months has not been met at this point and would like to extend it so that they can.
Okay.
Fair?
I think it's something I would like to talk about another time. Which is
I think that's great that we should talk about it. Yep. I think there are many items that we will be talking about here shortly. So, any other questions, Dusty
I actually don't see a need for the applicant to have submitted a written request to us other than just a request to extend that. It's an administrative action,
Correct.
simply an administrative action. So any, additional information is irrelevant to the sketch plan that was approved. And that's what you're asking to extend. It's as simple as that.
Correct. We're not making any changes to the sketch plan. We're only extending the deadline. Correct.
I got nothing.
Nothing. Nick?
What's the recommendation from staff to extend it to?
I mean, it probably only needs to be extended a few extra days, but I think you can extend it a year. So why not just extend it a year in case something else comes up? I don't see any.
We do have
problem with that.
we have the ability to extend it up to 12 months. I don't know that we need to do that. If it's
What's the harm?
there's no harm necessarily, but why? If it's only going to be a short period of time, I definitely understand where some of the board members are concerned that things are changing immensely, which we will see and we will hear. But I'm open to a 6-month extension. I think would make more than enough sense, provide enough time. Applicant, do you feel that 6-month extension would fulfill your need?
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's. I think that's a fair amount of time since it's been 12 months already, and understanding that there's amount of work that has to be done here. But
That's it.
that's it. Hubie, any other?
No, I'm good. I think that's reasonable.
Sharon?
Fine.
Dusty?
I would actually argue just to do it for the year extension so that we're not tracking time.
Yeah.
Just, there's no harm in it. He needs it or doesn't need it. It's his choice. Administratively, and we're allowed to extend it 1 year. I mean, it's a finite deal. What happens at 6 months? If by some chance you want that extra 6 months, do we then have to come back
It's
for
fair.
a second hearing for another 6 months? I mean, I'd say 1 year, one and done.
And then
I-
without.
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
I would prefer that. It's better to be safe than sorry. I don't think we are going to need a year by any means, but I would
Why come back?
go with his suggestion.
Okay. Stephanie, any preference on that?
I agree with Dustin.
Okay. Nick?
No preference.
Hubie?
Yep. Yeah, I guess 12 months that seems reasonable. Then you're consistent with dates and so on.
Yep.
So,
Sharon?
Yep.
All those in favor of Trevor, you're right. Thank you. Trevor, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Trevor, you want to weigh in?
Okay. Yes.
Yes, you want to weigh in?
No. I'm okay with it.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion before us? I don't even think we do we? Yeah.
So I have a question about
No.
that.
Yeah.
Based on what you said earlier, is this anything other than a simple majority, or is this actually a motion? Since it's under business matters, it's not officially warned.
It's true. It should be just a simple majority. Yep, so we don't necessarily need a full motion for it.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
just, we're
Correct,
sort
it's
of
just a straight
modifying
business.
stuff.
Correct. Yeah. So in that case, we have a majority. All 7 of us have agreed that the 12-month extension will be allowed at this point. There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay.
gosh, that was a little more painful than I thought it needed to be.
What's that?
I thought that was a little more painful than it needed to be, but anyway, here we are.
Yeah, well, we are constantly evolving and learning, aren't we? So. Okay, so the next item that we have up before us is the request for 5 Kana Lane. Staff, do you want to give us a quick rundown on 5 Kana Lane?
Sure. They
Hold on. Yep.
One Kana Lane is 5.
It's
I'll
5
go
Kana
over
Lane,
that.
also known as 1 Kana Lane.
Gotcha.
Yep.
And before I start, Kana or Kana?
Canna.
Kana.
Okay.
Wondering where Canna came from. That's Kay. Kelly. A is Ashley, daughter number 1. N is Noelle, daughter number 3. And the final A is Amanda, daughter number 4. So it's named
Oh.
after my 4 daughters.
Nice.
Fantastic. Well, that would make it easier
It's easy
for me to remember.
both
Yeah.
Ashley, Noelle, and Amanda.
And
But
Canna.
Canna's how we pronounce it.
Okay.
Kana.
So the address is 5 Kana Lane. This particular building is one Kana Lane, and then there's also a 3 that's on the same property. I tried to clarify that in here. I'm not exactly sure if that came through, but the building that we're talking about is the multi-unit building that is up by the road, not the other buildings on the site. They are looking to add an additional 8 units onto the top floor of that building, is what their request is. The current building that it's in was recently approved for an addition. That work has not completely finished yet. There is still some work that needs to be finished with that, but this particular application is just for 8 additional units in the top floor, not to be confused with the previous application for other work that is still ongoing. So if I could just run through a couple things that are unique to this particular application. They're asking for 8 units on the 3rd floor, which I mentioned. There is an outstanding violation at the site, which is that they started building the 8 units without previous approval. So if the board approved this now, that would remedy the violation on the site. For the previous approval back in 23, one of the conditions stated that the total bicycle parking for indoor and outdoor spaces would accommodate 2 bicycles per dwelling unit for a total of 24, because the previous unit would have 12 units, the previous building. So in consideration of that, and that 8 more dwellings would be added, I'm now recommending a condition that there would be 40 bike parking spaces total, still 2 per unit. So I've mentioned that on lines 161 to 165, and that's in the conditions section in the back. So I'm just trying to be consistent with the previous approval. In the section that deals with fire protection, starting on line 217, the fire chief has indicated that the existing parking area, that the solar panels that are in place there are obstructing the 20-foot wide fire lane access. So he's mentioned in his comments that regardless of these 8 units, one way or the other, that issue needs to be remedied, and I believe the applicant has something new to present in that regard tonight, which I won't discuss quite yet. That concludes it. My comments about this particular application.
Okay, thank you. Board members, questions for staff? Sharon, we'll start with you.
I don't think so yet.
Okay, thank you. UB?
I will have some questions later, I think, for regarding the initial, the original 2 approvals for this plan, for this project, and so on. So
For staff or
and-
for?
well, in general, for staff, for what the 2 previously approved plans and the conditions that were attached to that. You know, when we have a condition that says all previous conditions, you know, what are they? That's really the question.
Okay. Would this not be a good time to ask since we have staff available?
That's a good point, because we don't have those conditions in front of us.
Well, okay.
that what you meant?
Do you
I'm
have a
just trying-
copy of the original, the 2 original plans that were approved and the conditions attached to those 2 approvals?
I brought the file folder for this address, which has a number of different approvals that have happened over time. If they do have a violation associated with any of their approvals or any violations associated with the current building that they're working on, those should be addressed, and in the conditions for this particular application, it does call out that all the previous conditions must be satisfied. So the current work that's happening out there isn't completed yet. Like, for example, they still have some trees that need to be planted. That's something that's still required of their previous approval, and that's not related to this particular application that's in front of us right now.
So part of the reason for the question is that when we, if the conditions are developed for this approval, that they are in conflict with the existing conditions or duplicate existing conditions. If we don't know what those existing conditions are, how do we know that we're not duplicating or having a condition that's in conflict with the previous condition?
There would be no reason to limit the number of, to say that they couldn't have these 8 units. These units would be allowed, so there would not have been a previous condition saying that they couldn't have these 8 units, if that's what you're referring to.
Can I take a whack at it?
Go ahead.
If there are conditions in previous approvals that are not written into the conditions of this application, they need to be included or referenced clearly and included in some form or fashion. Because that first line is all inclusive, saying everything from the past still applies, but there's nothing here to clarify what was in the past that's not in this packet.
Exactly. You said it much clearer than I have.
I listened to you.
Yeah.
Is there a particular concern about something?
Well, it's just a statement. I mean, this is, unless you have those previous applications, I pulled up the one from September 23, and I can see what those conditions were. Hubie can't. Hubie doesn't have that. So the point is that those conditions are referenced in a document. They're referenced in this document by saying all previous conditions still apply. But what are those previous conditions? If they're reflected in here already, if item 10 is the same as item 10 in the previous one, you're covered. But we don't know what the differences are. I mean,
Whenever we have,
this is New World Order.
this is the way that we.
Understood.
That's fair, and I don't mean to cut you off here. But that's fair, but given that procedurally, given that that in the past and when this had been reviewed before, it was a planning commission that had a full succession, right? So it all had been under the planning commission. Now this is a newly formed board, and perhaps some members may have some prior history knowledge, but the rest of us wouldn't necessarily. So perhaps I think going forward, it might make sense when we're referring to 2-year-old or 3-year-old applications. It would be helpful to have some of the background, the conditions that were part of that, part of those prior applications, just so that we are aware of what those prior conditions were, whether they were met or not met, as we're starting to lay down new conditions on new versions of the application. This is not a piece for necessarily for the applicant to be concerned about. It's really more about how we're proceeding with our applications going forward. Yes, sir.
Yeah, anything that's prior to zoning permit approval, obviously the project started already, so hopefully those wouldn't carry over, otherwise you're gonna get an extremely long list. But that'll take care of the vast majority of them.
Yep, that's a fair comment. But again, we're doing a lot of crossover now from from some older stuff, and we're going to be doing that for a little bit. It's helpful for us to have more knowledge, and even if it's not necessarily, part of our packet, it's imperative for us to understand. So,
was there a particular? Some other items were brought up that people are concerned with just about this site that relates to the previous approval. Were there particular questions that anybody had about this site? Like, for example, the fire department access, or the landscaping, or anything else like that that's a particular concern?
As an example, the fire department's request for the 36-inch space or whatever, was that one of the original, was that a condition of the original approval? Or one of the approvals?
I believe that the applicant has a new thing to add regarding that. So I'd let them speak to what they're planning to do to change that situation. So I think there's just a different situation that they're proposing now.
It sounds like it might be more of an administrative thing we can talk about.
correct. Yep, as we go forward. Yep.
Okay.
Right. It's another added to the topic. Hubie, anything else?
No, not at this point. Not for staff.
And Sharon, did we talk? I can't remember. Did I start with you? I did.
Yep.
Yep. So he'd be the Nick.
Just a follow-up or related question. Since this is an application that's for the same property, is this considered a phase 3 of this of a similar project, or is it a whole new starting from slate, but only referencing back to the other conditions because it's an ongoing project?
The way that I was processing this application is it just was an application for adding 8 units. So that was the only thing I was looking at with this particular one. And they indicated that there'd be no other exterior building work related to this and no other site work related to this particular application. So I was trying to keep these as they have their previous approval for ongoing work that isn't completed yet, that still needs to be finished. And then they've asked for something that's different. They're asking for 8 units. So I was really trying to just look at the 8 units for this particular request.
Numerous projects, not a grand plan. It sounds like.
I don't know what the other, I don't know if they have additional plans for this property someday or other things that they might have planned.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
That's all.
Okay. Thanks. Stephanie?
None.
Just to follow up on that, Nick, this was submitted to us as an amendment, right? So this would still be, if this was a phase 1, it would still be a phase 1 because it's an amendment to that phase 1. They want to add, not this is, so this isn't a new plan. This isn't anything. This is just an amendment. So I think that's, to me, that's just to hit on that a little bit.
Because it's an update of the existing plot. It's not. Yep. Okay. Okay. All right. No further questions from board. For the staff, let's move on to the applicants. Good evening.
Evening.
State your names if you would for the record, and feel free to speak right into the mic.
Brian Courier, Larry Burke Civil Associates. I'm
Mr.
Jeff Lyon. I'm the
Mr.
owner.
Chairman, point of order here. I don't think we opened the hearing.
We haven't opened a public hearing yet. We are having our first conversation
So
with staff,
we
and then
don't
we have a
have-
conversation with
Okay,
applicant,
so-
and then we open up to the public.
Okay.
That's how we have been operating.
Okay, I thought that we usually opened the hearing for hearing the testimony from the applicant as a part of the hearing.
This is the opportunity for us to have questions with the applicant, and then we open it up to the public for the public to weigh in as well.
Okay, so maybe I'm misunderstanding. So,
Yeah.
so that what the applicant is saying here is not testimony.
They took the oath at the beginning, so they are on
Correct.
the oath when the meeting
But-
was called to order. It's a different. This is another definition thing. We probably should park for later. It's going to be an endless circle.
It's true. I'm happy to take a motion if you'd like to make a motion to open a public hearing.
Well, I guess,
This-
like I say, if anything the applicant is going to say is that testimony towards fact finding for any conclusion we reach. If it's not, the hearing has not been opened, now is it considered testimony?
I consider this testimony only in the fact that we're asking direct questions of the applicant at this point, but this is the same way that we've been running the meeting since January 1 of.
No, if we, okay,
25,
another
but
point to clarify later on, okay?
Yep.
We can continue, if this is what we've been doing, fine,
Yep.
but I think that's something we need to clarify.
Absolutely. We have much work to do
Yeah.
as we continue to proceed. Okay. Applicants, feel free. Give us a rundown.
So, the only thing I would add to Kent's overview of the project, so we're proposing 8 units. The proposal was no construction. The fire chief, and I think some field measurements were taken that there was only 18 feet between the edge of the solar array and the closest parking stall. If you look at the site plan, it's roughly located near the main entrance on the, it'd be the west side of the building. Our solution to that, so it is a gravel parking lot, so we're just going to add some gravel on the building side of the parking lot there and slide the space down an extra 2 feet, so we have that 20-foot clear zone that the fire chief is looking for. He also mentioned a direct path to the FDC, fire department connection on the front of the building or that same side of the building. So it is a gravel parking lot. We are showing a 36-inch hatched area as was requested before, which was in the prior previously approved plan. But it is a gravel parking lot, right? So striping a gravel parking lot is challenging. So our solution to that problem would be to have a sign that basically says no parking in front of the FDC. We feel like that's a reasonable solution. Didn't have any other staff comments that I thought needed to be addressed. We have reviewed the conditions of approval. I had 2 of them that I thought could be removed, 5 and 9. 5 refers to a Mylar recording. There's no property work here, so there's no reason for a Mylar. And 9 talks about a 6-inch sewer service, and we did analysis for Public Works showing it was adequate for the building, and that's included in the meat of the staff report. So I think 9 and 5 could be removed. But other than that, we're don't have anything else to add.
No, but the sign's already there, so to mark the path to the FTC, and it's working just fine.
And this picture I brought up on the screen here, this was the new plan that you had just sent over a day or so ago. It doesn't, by looking at it, it doesn't indicate how it's different from what was submitted before. But I did notice myself just comparing it to the other plan. It looks like this area here, if my cursor is on it, previously this had more of an angle.
Yep.
And this parking area is just slightly closer to the building now to give you just over 24 feet instead of before it was like 18 or 19 or whatever it was.
Right.
Were there any other changes besides that?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. So we're adding gravel in between the building and the parking lot, as I described. But the way we drew it was we just increased the radius on that side because the parking lot's not square to the building.
Yeah, this is not the plan that we have in our packet because you just barely got this. Yeah.
That's correct. We just wanted to show pictorially rather than having me just describe it, what it looked like. So staff hasn't reviewed the plan in detail. We understand the board didn't get it ahead of time. It's just meant to illustrate that adding a little gravel in between the building and the parking lot will give the fire chief the 20 feet that he's looking for from the edge of the array to the closest parking spot.
Questions for the applicant? Dusty, I'll start on your side.
None.
Stephanie?
I guess my only question is, why would you start work when you hadn't already been approved to do so? To me, now you're coming and asking for forgiveness before asking for permission, and I'm just kind of would like to know from your standpoint why we should do that.
Yeah, it's my fault. The reason, and I didn't realize it till the guys were in there, but they had to run some wire and do some roughing work to get from the first floor to the third floor. You can't do that afterwards. It's just not practical. So they had to do that, and that's why.
Okay.
And I notified, I obviously communicated that and was told to stop, which I did, but, we had to do that. Otherwise, it'd be impossible to finish the third floor.
So all that's been done is roughed in electrical
It's rough and plumbing.
and plumbing.
Right.
So roughed in
And
utilities.
it's framed because we had to do that for the sprinkler system. The whole building is sprinklered as well.
Okay.
And the sprinkler had to be done on the third floor. Otherwise, it would have been incomplete.
Okay.
Anything else?
No.
Nick?
You were going to be adding gravel between the building and the parking lot, but did I hear that the parking lot itself will be gravel?
The parking lot is gravel. Yep.
So it'll be gravel next to gravel.
Well, it will be
Continuation.
extending the edge of the gravel to maintain 20 feet between parking space and
Yeah, the way I would say it, we're just extending the parking lot to make it a little bit wider to meet the 20-foot requirement from the chief.
Delineated from parking lot to median, how?
What do you mean?
Is there going to be some sort of barrier in parking spots to clearly identify you're in parking area versus the space between parking and the building?
Well, there's two separate topics, and if I'm understanding your question properly, one is just between the array and the building, in the end of the parking lot, has to be 20 feet. So there's no marking required. You just got to make sure the parking lot is 20 feet from the solar array. So we're going to extend the parking lot in the few places where it's not to make sure it's the full 20 feet. The separate topic, which I think you're alluding to, is for the FTC connection. He wanted a 36-inch path. And what we did there is we put a nice sign in that, says you cannot park here over to the sidewalk, and that protects the 36-inch path. It's been in for several months now. Seems to be working.
Okay. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Hubie?
Yeah, I'm curious as to why you didn't include these original 8 units in the total. Why didn't you apply for 16 to begin with? Now you're incurring some significant additional expense for fees and so on that if you had applied initially, and clearly it appears anyway that the building was clearly built to accommodate 16 units. So I'm curious as to what your rationale was for.
The third floor has taken on a lot of different missions over the years, and so I did not anticipate the 8 originally. There were actually going to be a loft for the second floor units. That ended up not being practical. So then we were thinking 4 units, and then we went to 8 sometime last year when we were constructing it. So the other issue is that you can only do a certain number of units before you start to trigger Act 250 as well. So it wasn't practical to do more than 8, given the Act 250 requirements.
Okay, thank you.
The Homes Act too is substantially increased densities along the area served by water and sewer. So now it's a 20-acre parcel, well, more than 20-acre
24.
parcel. So 5 units an acre now. You're talking 100 units of density. Not that you can build 100 units on the parcel with other constraints, but theoretically, densities are significantly higher.
Sharon, I'll let you go.
I sort of had the same questions that I think that Hubie and Stephanie had. And I was just confused, like if you're putting electric up in an attic, you don't have to do all the framing, do you?
The framing was required for the sprinkler system. So the whole building has a sprinkler system in it for safety.
Yeah.
And so we had to sprinkler the third floor as well. So the requirement from the sprinkler team was to make sure that they knew where the walls were so they could measure and meet code requirements for exactly where the sprinkler heads needed to go. And so they needed the framing in place for that.
Okay.
I did have one other question. This refers to the Super Bowl halftime flush. Okay. Well, anyway, you said the Public Works has agreed that your calculations for the sewer, that they had a question originally 6-inch was not big enough, they had a question about its size.
Yep.
And so you've satisfied their requirements.
Yes.
So it's going to sustain the halftime Super Bowl flush.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even if I'm there.
Yeah.
Good, Hubie?
Yeah.
Trevor?
I don't have any questions.
Okay. My question is, continuing on the theme of the question about why the third level was built and then fitted up with the utilities and the sprinkler system originally without planning on having 8 units. At some point that changed, and I totally understand and agree that it makes sense to make sure that you fit up that level with utilities during the framing process. It makes a lot of sense to do it that way. It's certainly, as you said, retroactively it's impossible to do. But at some point that decision was made, and so you were aware that this was something that was not yet, hadn't been approved yet. So why are we just seeing this now?
So the decision was made while we were constructing.
Yep.
So it was literally right in the middle of construction. So the decision was made, on the spot.
Mhm.
I honestly didn't even think about it because it was just the base minimum necessary to get through that phase. Obviously, I didn't want to waste money, right. Unnecessarily. But afterwards, I did report it to make sure that, the town was aware, because I wanted to make sure I was being open, right, about what was going on there. So that's literally how it transpired. The focus was on building. There was a lot going on.
Not just to skirt the Act 250 piece.
Right.
Okay. And I do know that and I'm not sure that the public is aware, but by coming back afterwards and asking for an amendment here, that you have incurred some additional expenses that would go along with this. Everything's pretty much double, correct?
I would have preferred to have done it all up front, financially.
Okay. Any further questions from board to either staff or to the applicant?
Yes.
Yes.
One item that was a condition of the prior approval was the 24 spaces for bicycle parking. And with the addition of 16 would be a total of 40. Do we know if that's by some kind of statute or that's just a recommendation from the condition?
We don't have any specific numerical requirements in our regulations. So this is just based on the previous calculation that was approved of 2 parking spaces per unit. So then I just increased that to consider the additional units. So to me, it seemed like if the original approval was satisfactory to the applicant and to the town, that I would just do the same thing to continue. And the way that it's written, it would be up to the applicant's discretion on what percentage would be inside and what would be outside. It seems like for a home like this, it would make sense to have a majority of the parking spaces inside. But that's the way it's written. It would be up to them to decide how they wanted to distribute that.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further questions from board to applicant or staff? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved by Dusty, seconded by Sharon. All those in favor of opening the public hearing, say aye. Aye. And opposed? Motion carries 7-0. So at this point in time, we'll have the opportunity for anyone either online or here in the room to ask questions, get some clarifications. Comments should be directed towards the chair rather than to the applicant themselves, but we'll certainly have the opportunity to have some examination. Do we have anybody in the room here that would like to ask any questions of the application? Yes, sir. Come right on up if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, slide this mic down.
Yeah, let's do that. Yep. So we'll have you come to the table here. Yep.
Share a microphone.
Yep.
John, you want to sit there? I'll go loud.
State your name for the record if you would.
John Hill.
John Hill.
Speaking to the mic.
Yeah. John Hill.
I'm Lorraine Zaloom.
And I saw both of you raise your hands for the oath, so thank you.
So go ahead and just ask the question.
Please.
A couple things I just want to understand. So it looked like, and this probably staff could clarify for me, when it says all this outside site work is met and done, which it said, does that mean like the trees that aren't planted? Like what does that refer to?
Right.
Why did it say there all site work, outdoor site work is done?
It's a fair question. I do know that staff addressed the fact that the trees have not been completed as yet, but go ahead, Kent, if you would.
That's right. So if there is remaining site work from the previous application, either with the trees or restoring any of the ground or the landscape, there's still a silt fence in there. In the conditions mentioned, there's a drain pipe that looked like it was damaged. It needs to be repaired. If there's other things on the site that still need to be done, that work still needs to be finished.
So, right. So I'm trying to clarify when I see from the staff that it says all outdoor site work is done. No, doesn't that refer to some of that, or what does it refer to? When you
Well, I
says all
didn't-
site work is done.
Yeah, I didn't mean to refer to all the site work being done. I
That
think,
was from the previous staff member, I think.
Was that, let me just find the spot that talks about the landscaping. Let's
Yep.
see.
Yeah, 170 states that previous approval on 9/14/23 included landscaping requirements which are not yet completed.
Right, so there was another place in the staff report from the previous staff member that said all outdoor site work was done. So I just want to clarify what that means. Does that include when a staff member says all the outdoor site work has been, is complete? Does it mean it's complete, or don't outdoor trees still refer to the site work that's out of the side of the building?
Did you say you're talking about a previous staff report, or do you mean this?
From Sharon Kelly had sent us in one of the previous, before an amendment, before I think we had a canceled meeting or something, and in there it said all site work, outdoor site work was complete on the amendment application.
Yeah, most of the public postings said no new construction will take place with this application.
Well, no new construction, I mean,
No.
no, that means outdoor
Yeah,
construction.
that's right.
But
That's
what
how
I'm
the-
talking about is the site work.
Yep.
Okay, so.
Well, I think to get at your point, if there's site work that still needs to happen, and there is, because, for example, the street trees aren't all planted yet,
Right.
that work still needs to happen as a requirement of the previous approval. That work needs to happen.
So just procedurally, how does it work for getting a the certificate of occupancy in terms of having some oversight, given that they were already giving their CFO for the first approved, even though everything wasn't complete?
That would be reviewed by the zoning administrator to make sure that they have everything taken care of.
Right, but they already received a CFO, and I'm just wondering how that happens when, upstairs was kind of being built in an unapproved way, and then also the fire department had concerns about access to the fire and fire safety, and there wasn't enough room, which was on the very first application, and that wasn't met in terms of being able to turn, was my understanding, why the fire department. Now we have another site plan here with an extended driveway, and has the fire department even looked at it, and has the fire department approved that?
I guess the way that I would frame this is there were a number of questions that you brought to the town's attention, which I appreciate. I've shared those with the zoning administrator. I did do a site visit out there with the zoning administrator. Public Works also went out there separately to see what items still needed to be done. There is an understanding that the town has of the work that still needs to be completed in a satisfactory way. It seems like that's all on track to happen. If it doesn't happen, there'd be a violation issued. There are some legitimate things that do still need to be finished, but it is still a work in progress. That is separate from this particular application in the way that I'm reviewing it in my own mind for the 8 additional units. Is the way that I'm looking at it. I'm not saying that that's the perfect way. To me, that seemed like the most practical way to look at it. Is this other work does need to be done correctly. I agree with that. But these 8 particular units that are being asked for, I'm trying to review those separately.
Yep.
So I think that these concerns that have been brought up have a way of all getting addressed in a satisfactory way, is my understanding.
I appreciate that. Thank you. As I review this, I'm looking at the conditions of this particular approval, which still include a lot of the work that has to be done for the original approval as well. And so, from what I can see, based on what staff has prepared for us and what our conditions are, all of that work still has to get completed in order for them to get the certificate of occupancy for the new 8 residential units. And I understand where your question is coming from. If you feel that the CO was granted for stuff that wasn't quite done at that point, I can assure that now that the town sees that there is work that's been done, that wasn't approved or hasn't been completed the way it should be, that it's under the microscope at this point.
So if it's under a microscope and there's been a sign in front of the hookup, why wouldn't staff have just said, okay, there's a sign up that's already taken care of, and the fire department still had a concern and put it on this? I mean, the applicant just said,
Yeah, I
that
can't.
we've had it up for months and it's working well, so how is that under microscope?
I'm not going to go back and forth with you about like what the timelines are of when the fire chief reviewed this versus when the staff report was prepared. It is a matter of the condition that is part of this, and I feel like if you have additional questions about that portion of the process, it's not necessarily for this board to be looking at, because we're looking at just the regulations and whether or not they're fitting, whether or not they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, and what in regards to the regulations themselves. I think where your concerns might be best suited to go to select board or have conversations directly with staff.
I've done that a number of times,
Yep.
and I'm very frustrated with the process because I can't get answers. So, the buck can also stop with you as well, because part of the process is we have to make sure the staff is doing their job too, because it's the only leverage that we have, really, because we already see that midway, at his cost, unfortunately for him, it looks to me, if he spoke of a loft as well before, then why wouldn't you have fitted up if you're going to loft the third floor? That's a concern about trust. It's a public trust issue. My other concern is in the staff report, in the site visit, they referred to the pipe that was crushed, that's in the report, as a stormwater pipe. It is not. It is a pipe, and the applicant confirmed this. It is a pipe that I believe leads from his basement and sump pumps out his basement on his first apartment. We discovered that when he started the work next door. We don't have a problem with apartment being built next door. We have a problem with flooding that has occurred onto our land and is causing major problems on our land. So there are stormwater issues that are ongoing for a long time now. And when I look at the stormwater management plan for our town, I was wondering, because it looked to me like we're doing LIDs on that particular site build with a trench, because there was a trench that was proposed, but I don't see that the trench is actually working, nor do I think that the trench necessarily connects with our side, which is where we're seeing all the erosion. I don't know if you looked at all the pictures, but it's pushing the dirt right on the soil into our property and clear erosion issues. The second thing with that crushed pipe is not related. That's coming from his basement. So the site visit didn't even reveal properly what's going on. So I also have a public trust issue with our site visits. This has been ongoing for 4 or 5 years. The other thing I would ask too, given that our loss of privacy, and now that we have lights from next door, because of all the massive amount of trees that look like there were class 2 wetlands that they were cut down in, that has caused increased flooding. A pine tree that's 12 inches across in diameter sucks up 120 gallons of water a week. And we lost over 100 trees next door. So we've experienced massive flooding from that tree loss. We've experienced massive privacy loss. Now we're going to have a third floor with people now looking down into our property. I would like to at least ask another condition to extend the tree line down toward Route 15, so that eventually those would grow and hopefully provide more privacy, would block the light that we lost. It would also help absorb the stormwater. I would love to know if the infiltration trench ever happened and if it was hooked up on our side. I would love him to stop putting sump pump water onto our property as well. It's not required by law, but that would be a nice thing to do. So we struggle with this process. It's been very frustrating for us for 5 years now.
Good. Thanks. Staff, do you have any comments about that?
I guess it's not really something additional to say, but I just would say, again, the zoning administrator did go out and took a look at the site and is familiar with what's out there. Public Works went out there too. And if there's any violations or something has happened that it shouldn't be that way, it would have to be corrected. So at this point, my understanding is there are no other active violations at this point besides the 8 units that we're talking about. But the work still needs to be finished, and then it would be evaluated to make sure that it's been done correctly.
Dusty, you don't have a microphone, but have any questions or comments for?
follow up on that.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Dusty, didn't mean to interrupt. Is there a way then for us to understand that infiltration trench, whether it's actually, there's a catch basin or anything, and there's two peaks that point right to our side that are eroding the soil onto our property and flooding our right of way?
I'm not an engineer, so I'm not sure that I can answer that well, but
But how is that verified? Who,
Right.
you know, and because that's really the biggest problem we have is the stormwater running for quite a few years. And we started experiencing flooding out of season in our basement that we never experienced before about a week after the trees were gone.
okay.
Sure you guys didn't get hit with an indoor pool?
We were thinking about having a pool and opening up to the public. Yes, it is that bad.
You,
Sorry.
you certainly could. You,
It's okay.
you could charge for that. So
Yeah, we're hoping.
that would fall under Public Works, if I'm not mistaken. Correct.
Public Works went out, and the concerns that have been raised, town staff has already gone out and looked at them. My understanding is that's the process, and I trust that if there was something that needed to be changed or fixed, that they would have identified it. Again, the work's not completely finished yet, so we should really evaluate it once it is all finished. If there is something that is a problem right now, to me, it seems like it would have been identified when staff already went out if there was an immediate thing that needed to be changed. Public Works did mention a couple items that should be remedied, and I mentioned those in the staff report.
Yeah, I believe it's Public Works that would be on a
That's what we're most frustrated with, because that pipe that they identified is not related at all. So it was misidentified by whoever made the site visit. I don't know who did, but it's not even accurate. So my concern is you guys are kind of our last stop, and then we'll have to go to A&R, which I don't really want to go and appeal. We don't have a problem with the apartment being built there. We have a problem with the damage that it's causing to our property.
Yep. Okay. I appreciate that, and I appreciate your time and comments.
Thank you.
Thank you for being thoughtful about how you presented it as well.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
We're all one big happy family, right?
Yeah. Dusty, did you have questions?
Take my microphone back. So, Hubie, I'm going to borrow a little of your steam from earlier. I think this is a great example of why we need more complete stipulations, especially those that are conditions that have not been met. So I understand, Kent, that you were looking at this as just the 8 apartments, but it's an amendment to an existing plan, and we don't have the existing plan. And the fact that there are conditions that have not been completed yet, they're missing from this. And for example, just the landscaping on line 70, there's no stipulation in this application, even though it's called out in the findings, there's no stipulation in this application that the landscaping still needs to be completed. So I would request that any stipulation that is not complete from any previous application be included as a current and active stipulation in any amendment or ongoing process that we do. I know that we have a catch-all that says any previous conditions are still in place, but what ones are not, what ones are still being in flight? We don't know that. And I think it's an incomplete view of an application for us to look at this without having the rest of the application. So whether we have it as an attachment, or we have it included into this, the documentation included in this write-up, that's a point to consider. But I'd like to understand what else is still not complete. I'm not having an issue with the 8 units because it's not changing the overall anything of that building at this point. The issues that are still there, the issues that were there are still there, as presented by the public. But I think from a point of view, and Hubie, if I'm reading what you said wrong, then correct.
Yeah, that's the, for example, we could potentially require a condition that might be in conflict with one of the previous conditions. So then therefore, how would you say all previous conditions apply? You know, so just to further on what you're saying is that's why I think it's important for us to know what those previous conditions were. So we can say, well, wait a minute, we don't need to condition that on this application. That's already taken care of. That falls under that nice broad line. Previous conditions all apply, whatever, so on. So yeah, that's the reason for wanting to know that information. So because, you know, here we are, we have a revised site plan. Okay, the site plan we received was dated 3/11, I think it is, of this year, 3/13, that was showing the 8 additional units, which I find is kind of interesting, is that the site plan was drawn back on 3/13 showing 8 additional units, but, you know, we didn't get an application for those 8 additional units until it was discovered that there was construction going on.
That's not true.
Not true, but, why is this plan is dated 3/13?
It's when we submitted, when was the application submitted? It was right around the same time.
July of 25.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. So the timeline is sufficient there. Anyway, we, as a part of our approvals here, as far as findings are concerned, we will note that there has been a new plan showing the driveway adjustment, basically, is what it amounts to. Okay, but, so, yeah, no, it's just what's happened before, and I think that what we will end up saying, at least I expect, is that we'll say that all previous conditions for the previous 2 approvals need to be completed before there can be a certificate of occupancy for these new units, if we in fact do approve this. So,
Correct.
anyway.
And I think from my perspective for tonight, I wouldn't argue the point of including past stuff too much, but I would say in this one, I would look for a stipulation to reflect the finding on line 170, which is the landscaping.
Correct.
Because I don't know what the original condition was. So I don't know what it was. I would just say that needs to be completed.
Okay. Stephanie?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking about what the public said about replanting the trees that have been taken down for their privacy and whatnot. And I just don't know if that was part of the landscaping requirements previously in 914. So,
It was not.
I can see their point. Like, you abut your property and now I can see your property where I didn't see your property before. That's kind of jarring. So for me, that's an area where I'd like to work in something.
Enhanced landscaping.
Yeah, because I do think that's,
That's what that is.
that's a negative effect on the neighbors.
I think we also have to work out that whole pipe thing, because it says here that it's a roof pipe and
No.
Correct.
it-
Yeah.
it's something else. So
I wonder if
I mean,
all
I'm not
these
an engineer.
right, and I wonder if all of these things, and it needs to be clear because I'm shocked a CO is given before everything was done. That the CO for these 8 units absolutely cannot be issued until this whole site is done and wrap a little bow on it and call it good. But to me, that would also hopefully bring back some public trust, as well as that these units cannot be occupied until this site meets all of its required standards.
Mrs. Bloom, I saw your hand. Was there an additional comment or question you had?
There was, in that the original back and forth after all the trees were cut, after we lost so many trees, and now we're completely exposed to Route 15, was that when we were working with Darren Shibler before, in it he assured us that the trees would not be cut, as many trees would be kept as possible. So we don't understand why the trees in the class 2, which are indicated as class 3 on the newer site plan, I don't even know how that happened, how the class 2 from the state site, how those were all cut down when we were assured by the previous town planner that they wouldn't, that they would retain as many trees as possible, which is the cheapest way to do stormwater management. So I don't understand why that even happened. And we were advised to certainly speak with their neighbor, but we have no trust and we see no point, unfortunately, because my trust is just completely broken for the process. And again, we support the build. I want that to be clearly delineated, that I don't have a problem. It's nice looking, I get it. I also have concerns about more traffic now dumping onto Route 15 because we don't have left-hand turns into the store next to us. We don't have another left-hand turn. So now we have a 2-hour peak going on from school to the people getting out of work. I can't turn left after 4. I have to turn right. Certainly a board member here, a couple board members understand that as they try to get out of theirs. So I know there was no other traffic is under that too, but that's also a concern is the traffic. But again, they piecemealed this, and I personally don't have any trust for the reasoning. So my biggest concern is that's the only leverage we have, because the CO that was provided before the fire department was even okay with a hookup, that's dangerous to me. That's not okay. So that's another big concern is because the staff not only misidentified that pipe that comes out, that's not a storm pipe. You can ask the applicant if that is or not. I haven't seen anything but the infiltration trench, which in the previous thing, the infiltration trench, someone even said, a staff said, just remove it then if you're not going to tell us where it goes to. It's supposed to go across Kana Lane to their stormwater retention pond, because that whole road goes, some of it, where it goes through class 2 wetlands. I don't know if there was a proper CUD for the road. I didn't want to go back that far. You know, it's just been a long, ongoing problem. I'm just really frustrated with the process.
Appreciate the comments. I can't speak to what happened with the previous town planner, but we can continue the conversation here this evening. Stephanie, you've had your opportunity.
I'm good.
Anything else? Nick?
Nope, nothing else.
Hubie?
No, good for the moment.
Sharon?
No.
Okay. I see no hands. Is there anyone else in the room that has anything else that they would like to comment as far as the public is to be concerned? Seeing none. I take a motion to close the public hearing to go to deliberations. Hearing none. I will not close the public hearing then at this point. So,
Be interested in getting the view of the applicants on some of the conversation that we've been having so far.
sure.
The landscaping, the drainage, the runoff from the building. I mean, is there any input at this point from your perspective as to impact and mitigation or need for mitigation?
Sure. So the drainage all is inspected and approved by Larry Burke to make sure it meets all the requirements. So we're meeting all the requirements of the site plan for any of the drainage requirements. The open item on the trees is actually at the front of the property, and there's 4 trees that we're going to plant, and they're going to be nice trees. And to should demonstrate that we're going to plant them, we gave a deposit to the town for $5,000. So that, you know, good faith deposit that says we're going to do it, but we want to do it right. We want to use the right trees and plant them well in the spring. So we're good on that front. The pipe that my neighbors keep talking about is interesting to me, because that pipe has been there since their father owned the property. And the prior owner, before I bought the fourplex, the original building, had it put in. So it's been in there long before I was there, long before my neighbors were there. It's pre-existing. So, and it goes into a ditch. It doesn't go onto their property. It goes onto their property technically, but it's a ditch, an unfinished ditch. And the distance between that building and their house is about a football field. I think that's an important thing to understand, because there's 50 feet that they own in that ditch, which is just full of brush. And then there's 200 feet of another property that I own. And I have a basement in that property as well, and it's not any wetter. Then there's another 25 to 50 feet to get to their house. So their house is about a football field away from this building. So I don't agree that there's more water going in the basement, because I got a house closer than they do to this building and this project. In regards to the trees, the other question for separation, there was no commitment from me or a requirement from anyone in the town not to cut trees. There was a discussion in a prior approval that got voided, and the new approval came in. There was no requirement on trees. What I did as a good faith gesture for my neighbors is I put at my cost, a row of trees between the property. So right on the property line. You're asked about privacy. I agree. And so what I offered to do and put on the plan that wasn't required is I put a whole row of trees that separates right on the property line, their property from my property, and it's a barrier between where I did do the clear cutting that they're concerned about. So that was done not because anybody asked me to do it, but as a good faith gesture. And so you can see that is the tree line. So I think I did a lot of good faith work there. Neighbors are completely inaccurate when they call that wetland a class 2. It's been reviewed and approved by the state as class 3. And lots of wetlands experts. I have a lot of experts on this property combing through it to make sure I'm complying with all requirements. They're not cheap, but they're very, it's worth every dollar. So the only thing that, is the biggest issue, and I do want to fix, some of the grass, but the biggest issue is those 4 trees you see in the front, right on Route 15. And that's why I gave the town $5,000, was to demonstrate that I absolutely plan on doing that. I want to do it. I live there. It's going to look good because my biggest issue isn't the town or regulators or my neighbor. It's my wife. I got to keep her happy, because I drive in and out of this thing every day. So those will be nice trees, and I've demonstrated my commitment to do that.
Thank you.
A question, the tree line that you just talked about, the trees that you,
Yep.
along the property line, have those been planted there?
Yep.
What about your neighbor's comment about possibly extending that so that goes up the property line towards the center road, so that ultimately it might provide some?
It would provide absolutely zero value to my neighbors because there's a ditch from where you see the building, the yellow building. There's a 50-foot, go 25 feet from the building, that's the property line. There's a 50-foot ditch that they own. It does not go to their property at all. It goes to another property that I own and the house that I own. And then next to that house is about a 30-foot set of cedar trees that separates the house that I own and the house that they own. So extending that any further would provide absolutely zero buffer between them and us. And frankly, there's already a tree line there that their father planted decades ago. That's actually beautiful. It's all cedar trees. You'll see it when you drive by. So it would provide no practical purpose. And frankly, getting anything closer to the building is something I'd like to avoid if possible.
Good. Sharon?
Nope.
Nick?
If you're not interested in planting additional trees to continue that straight line, or that line, what suggestions might you have that would work?
I just don't think
That
it's
could
necessary.
work.
I just honestly don't think it's necessary. If you went to the site and saw it, you'd see that there's already a massive tree line between my property and their property right along their driveway. So it would not provide any additional shielding for them. And it's a beautiful cedar hedge. It's like 30 feet high, goes all the way down their driveway. They already have it.
Okay.
Trevor?
No, I don't have anything.
Okay. Dusty?
I'm good.
Okay.
Move we close the public hearing.
Thank you. We have a motion made by Dusty. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Stephanie. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of closing the public hearing so we can begin deliberations, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Dusty, thoughts?
We need a stipulation requiring all the landscaping be completed, any other conditions that have not been yet met, as I think you referenced some of them. We need to have them conditioned in this application, in this things, to be reflective of current status.
Okay.
And I don't have anything, I mean, the fire lane is there, so that's been met, the bikes is in there. So I'm not sure what else we're missing, but again, we haven't seen them, so we don't know of any others, and the only thing I can think of is the landscaping.
Mm-hmm.
Landscaping, which they've started that process. Yeah, it has to be. Yep. Okay. Thank you. Stephanie?
I guess I just want to absolutely make sure no more COs are issued until all conditions are met on this project.
Okay. Nick?
I feel like item 19 in the conditions is the accommodating 40 parking spots for bicycles. That seems excessive to me.
Yeah.
So I mean, my feeling would be the 24 would probably be well sufficient for this property.
So you're suggesting updating condition 19 to read 24 instead of a total of at least 40?
Or just do away with it because it's a condition that's in one of the prior approvals already.
We think.
So we're told, right.
Can I just ask a question? The prior approval said 2 per unit.
Well,
We should
And-
leave it. We could just leave it at 2 per unit.
That's
Then
what I
that
mean,
would-
40.
Right.
That's 40 and
Right.
40.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then we should change. I mean, I feel like we should change that to 24.
Perfect example of wanting to know what the previous
Exactly.
conditions were.
That's a conflicted condition.
That's the
Right.
issue I have is we're making, deciding that all these conditions, we've never seen the conditions, and it'd be nice to review them.
Agreed, and definitely something that we'll talk about moving forward as well. But as far as this application is concerned, how do you want to make an adjustment to 19 or strike it completely?
Well, hearing other board members' suggestions, we might want to strike it entirely, and the condition from the prior approval would carry through.
We would be 40.
Yeah, it would
So
be
I,
40.
I would actually, if I may, Nick, we mentioned this earlier. This is an amendment. So we are at the point of changing an approval. So if 24 is a number, I'm thinking 40 is a little excessive, a lot excessive. So I would actually be supportive of a condition that replaces previous conditions and sets a limit of a minimum of 24, not a maximum, but a minimum of 24 spaces. They could let their population drive that. If you get a population that is all driving bikes and they want parking spaces, you'd be, up to you to put it in. But
No, 100% agree. We didn't want to complain, but we thought that was excessive as well.
so, I mean, I think we are doing an amendment. This is the time to make a
That's
change.
in conflict of a prior condition.
But we would have to call that out.
Correct.
We would have to call that out and say this one would supersede the previous condition.
That's all.
Okay. Just for clarification, then, Nick, is that something that you are willing to? Since we're looking at doing an amendment, would you be willing to, or are you considering the idea of amending condition 19 to read minimum of 24 as opposed to at least 40?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Hubie.
Thank you, Des.
I guess to kind of go in order, we need to correct or revise, if you will, finding number 3 to reflect the new plan that we saw tonight, whatever the date of that plan is.
What line item are you on, Hubie?
It's finding number 3 would be line number 73. We just need to add on there revised 313 and then revised again dated whatever. That was just like this week,
Yep.
I guess, or whatever, very recently,
Right.
correct?
Yep.
Yep. Correct. So that should get updated.
And then I've heard, but I guess I'm not explicitly heard that it's been stated that we think we need a condition. I think, and I believe we need a condition to say that before any certificate of occupancy is issued for these 8 units, that all previous requirements from the previous 2 approvals, all conditions have been been met and the plans completed as approved.
Okay.
So that all-encompassing condition would also cover the landscaping,
Correct.
but
Right.
it would be like
Right.
with the exception being, if we put in the one for the bike racks, it would be call out that this condition supersedes any prior conditions referring to bike racks.
Correct.
And so, as suggested by the applicant, that we strike condition number 5 and number 9. And I guess we're saying we're going to strike 19 as well. Am I hearing that correctly?
We're gonna amend
We're
19.
amending 19.
Amending 19?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else, Hubie?
Nope.
Sharon?
No.
Okay. Hearing that, I'll take a motion to approve the updated application with conditions that have been
Did you ask
adjusted.
Trevor?
What's that?
Did you ask Trevor?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Thank you. Trevor, I'm sorry. I missed you and I apologize.
Oh, that's okay. I don't have anything to add right now.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry about that.
What's he doing now?
It's all right.
Hubie would like to know why you're out in the grass.
Great tall grass.
Well, it's a long story.
It's much nicer where you are than where we are. Okay. In that case, with Trevor not having anything additional, I would take a motion to approve the adjusted amendment. Excuse me, the adjusted application.
I'll second.
You'll second?
Sure. Oh no. Oh, a motion. I'll make the.
You make the motion, Trevor. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
And you're going to outline the changes that we're looking for?
Well, I guess what there's.
I
I
can
think
help with
Hubie
that.
just said it, didn't he? Or
Yeah, a
that
little
there's-
bit, but Dusty's going to help out, I think, a little bit.
I can help
Yeah,
you if you like.
Dustin, please help me.
We want to with the revise on line 73 to reflect the current date of the plan,
Yep.
and I think the rest of the findings are going to remain as is. Under the conditions, I do have a question. Trevor, Stephanie, anybody can. The condition 4 calls out a zoning permit. You were talking about a certificate of occupancy, which applies.
Well, I don't want anybody occupying those units until everything's hunky dory.
So, Kent, maybe which is the right
That's number 16.
16?
Instead of it saying at the discretion of the zoning administrator.
Okay, so we'll get to that one.
Okay.
Then. So then we wanted to strike condition 5, strike condition 9,
Correct.
modify condition 16 that says all as-built plans shall be submitted to the Community Development Department and all conditions of prior approvals be completed prior to the issuance of a CO.
Yep.
Correct.
And then line 19, stating a note that this condition will supersede prior conditions, and that the bicycle parking shall accommodate a minimum of 24 bicycles. And that's it. 'Cause I think with the change to the CO, we don't need to call out for the landscaping.
Correct. Because it's
So-
all encompassing.
Trevor, you okay with that?
Yes.
I'll second it.
Thank you for the motion, Trevor. Thank you for the second, Dusty.
You're welcome.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the updated application and conditions, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. That brings us to other business, as the only other item that was on our schedule was a site plan from Shank Enterprises and Black Bay Ventures. That has been removed from our agenda this evening. So that brings us to other business. And under other business, this is an opportunity for us to discuss openly a little bit of the changes or the information that we heard during our last training with Vermont League of Cities and Towns. There were some updates that we can make to our agendas going forward, and how we proceed. And under other business today, I really just want to bring up the possibility for us to have this conversation on a further agenda, not this evening. But I want to point out that we will have this as a member of an item on our publicly warned agenda in the future. Some of the things that we can talk about are the idea of, we learned that we do not have to have a public to be heard section in Development Review Board. That's something that Planning Commission and Select Board do, but that's not something that's in our purview. Given that we are a quasi-judicial entity and run really more in a court-style fashion, we don't need to have the general concept of items that are not on our agenda actually discussed. So that's something that we can talk about going forward. We also can make an update to our sign-in sheet to provide an opportunity for folks to sign in and note that they are interested parties. We don't necessarily need to hear public comment from those that are not interested parties. And we have the ability to, in fact, actually, I put out this evening a copy of what the regulations are as for who is an interested party and who is not. So in some of our experiences that we've had, in some of the applications that we've heard, we've provided opportunities for a vast number of people to speak on something that was on our agenda that were not interested parties, and we don't need to do that. So we can talk about that as a group as to how we want to adjust that going forward and what we want to do with that. Adding an alternate. That was something that we had discussed as a possibility.
You wanted to start your vehicle.
Yes, thank you. I want to start my vehicle. Appreciate that. Thank you. So, again, we don't have to have a lot of discussion about that this evening. The point of my bringing it up under business is just to make sure that we have had an opportunity to talk about having this on our January agendas so that we can formally talk about it. I'm happy to have any discussion about this.
Yeah, I think all those things you've mentioned are things that are probably going to be reflected in our operating procedures. We're going to end up changing some things and so on. So I'm wondering if I'm a firm believer in not reinventing the wheel, in that if there are...
I've never heard that from you.
Yeah. And if there are some other best practices from other communities as far as how their operating procedures include these things like the sign-up issues and so on, that's something that staff could give us some preliminary suggestions for adjustments to our operating procedures. Rather than us trying to create something that maybe at least has a framework already set. Anyway, whatever staff can do, I guess.
I think that's an absolutely fabulous idea. I have had an opportunity to have some conversations directly with staff, and we have had, there's been a little bit of back and forth about some different concepts that we could bring forward and talk about as a board, as a team. I have had conversations with Select Board as well to let them know that these are something. Now that they're finally got the handbook all approved, we're going to go and make some changes to it. But we are allowed to do that. So Sharon, you look like you have something you want to say.
Yeah, I was just thinking. There's a little bit of a glitch in our scheduling this, because some of the questions we've asked were asked directly of VLCT, and they are attorney-client privilege. So we might have to have its discussion in a deliberative session.
Executive session.
It would be in an executive session.
Yep.
That's correct.
Because we can't talk about.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. But it would be in an executive session that would come on our one of our January agendas, assuming we have more than one. So.
And we do have potential for executive or deliberative session on every
meeting,
our agenda.
Correct.
And then I just have a question about procedure. And then say we go into this executive session and we make a decision to do anything when we come out of it, but then it would still be attorney-client privilege.
No, because we can talk about what our decision is in executive session, but we don't necessarily talk about the inner workings of what goes on in our executive session.
We could
right?
come out and just say what we decided to change.
Correct. We say that our agenda going forward will be X.
Gotcha.
Our rules will be.
Right.
I would, without having seen the video yet of the training, I would always encourage us to lean towards transparency and allowance for public engagement of some form or fashion.
Yep. I agree with
agree.
that. I agree
just-
with that. And so, yes, go ahead.
It's just, our hands are sort of tied in one reason, because we've told we can't talk about.
I think we can
I'm-
talk about it. I don't think we can share the material.
Correct.
And I'm not trying to have the discussion tonight. I'm just trying to,
Yeah.
as we get into that thing, I would hope that we consider just as much transparency as we can
I agree.
maintain.
Yeah, I fully agree. And we have the opportunity to have, when we do our deliberative sessions, those can be public or those can be private. We have the opportunity to do private at any point in time that we want to. In fact, VLCT encouraged more often than not, why wouldn't you do private rather than having all that stuff? But I
totally disagree with that.
I agree with you, Sharon, in that more often than not, we would want to do that publicly. There are some instances where it would make sense for us to have private deliberative sessions, and we should be open to that as a possibility. However, majority of the time, they should be public. And I agree with you about the idea of having as much public involvement. The idea is to, if we eliminate, and you can watch the training so that you can see what she said, but if we remove the public to be heard, it opens up a little bit more time for us as well, so that we're not so time constricted when we're allowing interested parties to have a little bit
And that's
greater
the
amount of
point.
greater amount of impact.
And I understand that, and I'm not debating that. I'm just saying, as a community board, we need to. I feel we need to find a way to maintain an opportunity for the community to engage with us.
Agreed.
And that's not on applications. Those are interested parties. I can fully support that.
Yep.
But I think just for somebody to be able to come in and unload on us a little bit, respectfully and so forth. I think that is it's a must.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. I feel like there's a select board and a planning commission that also has that opportunity as well, and that's really where, in a lot of cases, the information that we're hearing in the public to be heard section has nothing really to do with us whatsoever. I get that's great that people have that opportunity, but
I'm not trying to sway anything right now. I'm just saying that's if we're not going to, anyways.
Yeah.
It's a debate for a different night.
Right.
I get that, but I just it worries me when I hear like we can not have a public engagement unless it's interested parties. So I'm just that raises warning flags.
Well, to be fair, right?
And I haven't seen it.
An interested party, we're not deciding who's an interested party. The individuals themselves are saying stating that they are.
And I think if we don't have public to be heard, then anybody can claim they're an interested party, and we cannot question it for
That's
every
correct.
application. So I think we're ending up giving them more time.
More time,
rather than saying like, oh, there's whatever people here, you can only, so because most of the people that come to public to heard are confused about regulations and stuff that should be the planning commission or
Correct.
the zoning administrator.
Yep.
And I don't think we'd ever should say you're not an interested.
No,
Party.
that's not our job. No, I agree. So this is definitely something that we can talk about going forward, right? So the purpose of this evening and putting it and talking about it during other business is just to highlight the fact that we should have this conversation in the new year.
Yep. Sorry about that.
No.
And
that's right.
do we decide to choose January, February, where we do plan to have a second meeting simply just for this business item, so that we're not rushing, because what I got out of that training is our first and foremost responsibility is to hear applications and to do hearings. That's what we are formed for. That's what we're to do. So I don't want to impede on that time, because that's important for the interested parties and the applicant to have that time. So I think we shouldn't feel rushed in shaping the board, because that's what we're still doing, because we're new and it's different and it's hard. But let's give us that meeting time so we can hash out that debate and not be like, ooh, we got 5 more minutes. You know what I mean? Like, I just think we should think about adding a second meeting just for policies, procedures, and how we're going to move forward. If that's what that meeting is, we do. Just a suggestion.
Great. Thank you. Anybody else have any comments about the other business?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead. That's good.
I would actually give kudos to Stephanie for something that she's mentioned at a meeting prior, maybe a couple times, is that some of the public comments that we receive during public to be heard are more procedural questions, and so that time turns into an educational type forum, and that's not why we're here. That's something outside of our scope. So it's helpful for them to learn about the process, but not during a hearing. And so maybe what we could do is provide some kind of educational piece, a printout of what the DRB does and what our purpose is, and have that quickly and easily given to those interested parties that aren't really interested parties. They're just interested in learning the process.
Yeah, there was when we first started this. I know that staff was able to print up. They quickly made some adjustments on some sheets that had been available in the past, and made them available the first couple of meetings that we had that were on the table. I have seen that I believe that Brittany is working on updating that a little bit as well, so we can get a little bit more. A little bit easier to follow, a little better flow, and certainly something that we could have as a handout, or certainly something that should be available on the website as well.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say that.
No, it should definitely be
with
available.
links like to the regulations, and that, so they
Agreed.
don't have to go searching everywhere.
Yeah,
for it.
of
course.
I used to write specifications, and I found that a lot of times people that they didn't read the whole specification because they were familiar with the technology.
Yep.
So I started writing. I'd write the specification, but I also would include, like you used to get in software, a quick start guide.
Yep.
So it'd be a 2 or 3 page, and exactly,
Yep.
and then have references
Yep.
to that quick start that would say, okay, if you want to dig deeper, you go here, and so on. So
Yeah.
you start with the guidance. If that's all that somebody needs, maybe that's enough. Somebody wants to go deeper, they can go to
The
the
website's
references.
hard to navigate.
Yeah.
It is, yeah, but it should be something that's an easy link, like even on the
Yeah.
community homepage, right?
Yeah.
Like community development homepage. But
So I've heard a number of comments and so forth, and I want to be clear that my wish for public input is not for public input on applications. My wish is for public input, period, so that they can say something to us as a board, and we could limit that to once every other meeting. We could have a Q&A session, whatever, something.
yeah,
But I don't think we should shut ourselves off from the just general public.
yep,
Public input during applications, lock it down.
yeah. I'd be.
So
I
that's
mean, as we get further into the discussions, I would be amenable to a 15-minute period at the start of each meeting, where if there are questions, or if there are anything that has to do with development review specifically, that the public has an opportunity to weigh in.
whatever. I don't want us to, ultimately, I
Yeah,
don't want us
we'll-
to lock ourselves off from the
Yeah.
general public of the community.
It's definitely something that we'll have that conversation about going forward. So, as chair, I can tell you that I have been working both with community development as well as select board, and about trying to get some of the stuff updated. A lot came up during that training, and I definitely recommend, if you get a chance, to take a peek at it, because it was very
I actually
insightful.
I didn't see the link. Brittany had said she was going to include the link, and I never saw an email
I
with the
sent an
link.
email out that had the link in it.
You did, okay.
Yep. So,
I'll have to
in
stop
addition to
deleting your
the
emails.
yeah. So just anyway, the main thing is in January or February we'll have a meeting about that specifically, so we can update we'll have to update our procedures. We'll have to send that to the select board and make sure that they're aware, as well as make sure that we're comfortable with what those procedures are going to be going forward. So we've had a year now, so it's been time for us to kind of clean things up a little bit. So, Lorraine, this is not an open section, so I know you're desperate to say something, but
Well, it has to do with that, because I didn't understand even the process that that public was still open, because I would have wanted to respond to what he said. And part of it is to make it clear to the public that it's still open, because he said some things that just aren't accurate. So I didn't know that was still open. I thought you guys had already closed the public when he went to speak to the applicant. So as a public member, I'm not educated either.
Mhm.
and the process. And so I just shut myself out. Now I'm gonna have to go through the A&R appealing process instead of just saying like here. So that was not clear to me that I could have countered what he just said.
Okay. Yep. I understand what you're saying. And I appreciate your comment. So, that said, was there anything else? You had no other business, correct?
Nope.
And we do not have an executive session this evening. Note that there are reading files that are part of your packet. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to take a look at those. I would take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Dusty, seconded by Stephanie. All those in favor of adjourning for the evening, say aye.
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 All
All right. Motion carries 7-0. I got you, Trevor. Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.